This segment sponsored by Foster Financial. It's time for Women's Wealth Wednesday, where we discuss financial topics that impact women and give you the tools for success. And joining me is the Vice President of Foster Financial, Caleb Doan. Hi, Caleb.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thanks very much.
Yes. Okay, so over the past month, we've been talking about women who possibly will retire before men in their households. And you've been giving us so much good advice on step-by-step of things that they should consider. So today we're going to kind of recap it and kind of reiterate some of this stuff. So please share with me what the topic will be.
Yeah, exactly. I know we kind of talked about that phenomenon that typically women are retiring a few years earlier than men. And so I often see this sort of in my practice too, where a wife will be retiring maybe 2 or 3 years before her husband. And so there's this kind of odd gap where one of them is retired, one is still working, and it's a big financial change. And so one of the key things that we've been talking about over the past few weeks is income planning during that time. Because of course the biggest change that happens when you retire is you no longer have that paycheck every 2 weeks. And so we talked about probably 3, key things to think about with income planning. And so I really just wanted to sort of quickly recap those and go over any questions that maybe we didn't touch on. And so the first one was, when do I take Social Security? That's typically the biggest question.
Such a good question. I must say it was very impactful. I think that so many of our viewers learned a lot from that, and the conversation I've been hearing has been happening like, oh wow, I should really consider this early. It's not something just to wait and it kind of rolls in. So yes, please share more about that.
Yeah, definitely. I know we talked about how you can take it as early as 62, you can delay it as late as 70, but there's a whole, kind of factor to consider there. And one of the biggest factors is your health, actually, to consider when to take Social Security. Of course, if you take it earlier, you have more years to collect it. If you take it later, you get a slightly higher benefit. And so there's kind of a break-even point. But of course, you have to live to that break-even point for it to be worth it. And so that's a big factor that we consider. Probably the second one that we talked about was potentially working part-time in retirement. Because of course, if you're retired but your husband is still working, you don't feel like you're fully retired sometimes because you can't just go travel the world or anything. He's still got to be at work on Monday or whatever it might be. So sometimes people talk about working part-time in retirement too. And if you take Social Security before the full retirement age, which is often 67, then there's only a certain amount that you're allowed to make before they start reducing your Social Security.
Right, that was interesting. Discussing that, wow, okay, so what are your limitations? And that kind of goes to when someone should take it. If you are wanting to wait to get the highest payout, working part-time, retiring, you can still retire, work part-time, but just not receive the Social Security benefits yet, right?
Right, okay, exactly. So that's certainly a strategy that we often employ for people, which is really good. And then I think the last one that we talked about for income planning was when to turn on your pension, and more specifically, what pension payout to take. Because I think a lot of people almost don't realize there are a couple options until they actually retire. And so this is something that impacts a lot of public school teachers in the area, firefighters, policemen, and a few of the main options. On one end of the spectrum, you have that straight life or single life pension that just pays out for your life, and then when you pass away, it's done. And then on the other end of the spectrum is that 100% joint and survivor payout strategy, where it pays out for all of your life and all of your spouse's life, and then when both of you pass away, it's done.
So actually, can I ask a follow-up on that? So what would make someone choose the single or the joint? Is it just determined if they are married or not?
So not quite. There's a lot of factors that will go into it. Sometimes even people who are married will choose the straight life option. For example, if you have, maybe a wife who's younger than her husband and she's expecting to outlive him, maybe he has more of a complicated health history, maybe her parents lived to be 100 years old and she's expecting to live for a long time. She doesn't want to take the reduced benefit and cover her spouse by the 100% joint survivor because she thinks, hey, I'm probably not going to get any added benefit from that because I'm going to outlive my husband anyways.
Okay, so it gets reduced, so the amount goes down. Okay, I see.
Exactly, yeah, the straight life, the single life is going to be the highest monthly benefit amount. If you choose to cover a spouse, basically the pension company is saying, hey, there's a higher likelihood that we're going to have to pay out more money now because we're covering two people's lives.
Right.
And so they'll reduce the amount. And
Yes.
so we'll take a look at that. And in some circumstances, it makes sense for the single life. Sometimes it makes sense for the 100% joint survivor. But the key is once you choose it, it's locked in forever.
Locked in, okay.
Yeah, you can't turn around and change it. So it's a big choice that we like to help people with.
Yes, and when it comes to several tasks that need to be done to prepare for the future, I think that people feel that they have time and like, oh, I'll handle it later. But financial planning is really important, right? So can you share why it's important to start thinking about it and actually taking actions right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of times when people start retirement planning, it's kind of along their working journey. You know, they start a new job and they just say, hey, I'm going to contribute 8% to my 401k or whatever it might be. It's kind of throwing darts at a wall essentially with what they think. But when you're 4 or 5 years out from retirement, we can get a lot more, I guess, mathematical with it and say, hey, if you expect to spend this much in retirement, we actually need you to save 11% for the next few years. And so once you're 5 or 6 years out from retirement, it's a wonderful time to start this retirement planning process, financial planning process, because since we're so close, you know, we can really get pretty mathematical with it and say, hey, this is the exact amount you need to save.
Yeah, that's good. 5 to 6 years, okay. And then those who are starting their career knowing these options too, because it's like, maybe I need a job that offers a pension. Maybe I need a job that will match the 401k and all of that.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much, Caleb.
Yeah, you
we
bet.
appreciate it. And Foster Financial is here to help women plan for retirement. So if you have any questions, you can contact them for a complimentary consultation. We'll have their number listed below, and we'll be right back. This segment sponsored by Foster Financial.